3, 2, 1. I was basking in the mountain air, the sweet sunshine, telling myself it really was time to get to work, to rack up some word count, get some writing done. I mean, that's the whole point of this retreat in North Carolina, to write. That's why I was getting a free cabin and 3 meals a day for 2 weeks. But I was too distracted to write. I was waiting for a phone call from my doctor. When the call finally came, it was a short conversation, after which I knew I wasn't going to get any writing done for quite a while. I wanted to unhear what my doctor had told me. I wanted to run away and hide. Instead, I called my husband. "Yeah, it's cancer," I said. Surgery. As soon as possible. I gotta leave and come home tomorrow. That night, I lay awake in my cabin and I wondered, what does cancer feel like once you finally start feeling it? How long had this been gestating in my body? How long had I carried it around until a symptom or two finally caught my attention? I asked myself if now was maybe a good time to check in with my several hundred social media friends and solicit thoughts and prayers. I didn't do that. This impending surgery felt like a very private date with cancer, especially since it involved the parts of my body called privates, my lady parts, the very parts of my body that I didn't even know existed until I was 13 years old and they started bleeding. My mom and my aunts and my grandmothers always referred to female genitalia and reproductive organs geographically. Down there. For the longest time, I seriously thought that the big difference between boys and girls is that boys had penis and girls had nothing. Down there. Where I come from, there's a reason they're called your privates. And right now, I did not feel comfortable going public. Not that I thought I could or should try to tough this out on my own. I did want help. Supernatural, divine help. In spite of some pretty pointed opinions about religion, I do believe in prayer, whatever form it takes. Incense, drums, dancing, rattles, words addressed to somebody named God, creativity, empathy, sympathy, all of that, I think sends good juju to wherever, to whatever, to whomever it is directed. But personally, I recoil at the thought of asking for that wholesale, in bulk. Probably more honestly, I cringe at the thought of people thinking that I feel vulnerable, knowing that I'm ill, knowing that I'm afraid. When I got home, I spent a couple of days assimilating the news and scheduling what needed to be scheduled. Then I told my kids, I confided in one of my sisters and 2 or 3 of my very close friends. And then I called up my cousin Rick, who lives in Washington State, whom I see, I don't know, every 5 or 10 years. Rick and I are from Oklahoma. We're from conventional, conservative, church-going families, and both of us wandered off the course and blazed our own trails. He went west and became a shaman. I came east and became myself. And here we are, both of us, on the lunatic fringe of the family gene pool, which is really a pretty lonely place to be when mortality slaps you upside the head. So I called this kindred spirit to tell him that I had cancer and that I was afraid, that I would greatly appreciate any wisdom he could share. had a similar conversation almost exactly 10 years before this. At that time, I was hospitalized for a week because of a ruptured appendix that almost didn't get jerked out in time. A couple of days after the giddiness of not being dead wore off, I woke up in the middle of the night in a panic, like a heart-thumping, flop-sweating, trembling panic. I had almost died. Randomly, zap, just like that. It could happen again. It happened so fast. Like a 6-year-old kid. I picked up my phone and I called out to the one grown-up that I thought could make the nightmare go away. Rick listened to me and then he said, "Look to the west. Bear sees you. Bear will help you." I thought, no, please, don't give me shaman speak. I am way too frazzled. I do not have the wit nut right now to untangle some enigma. But I figured out which direction was west. And sure enough, there was Bear. I turned that direction and sure enough, there was Bear. He was perched on one of those hospital gift shop flower arrangements, like a garnish. He was a beanie baby. I said, "He's a beanie baby. The bear in my room is a beanie baby teddy bear. But, hey, Bear, I salute you. And I ask you, please, help?" My cousin chuckled. He said, "Well, good. You had eyes to see. Now don't forget to say thank you." And from then on, I slept soundly for the whole time I was in the hospital. Now, 10 years later, I called the family shaman to see what he could suggest for dealing with overwhelming waves of dread and isolation. "Who are you taking with you into surgery?" he said. "Well, Jack's driving me to the hospital." "Who are you taking with you?" Ah, shaman speak. I mulled it over for a minute. He said, "You know, help is just waiting to be invited to help. Who are you taking with you?" My eyes darted around the room the way they do when I'm trying to puzzle something out, and there was that beanie baby bear in plain sight where he had been since 2008. Okay, that kind of help. Spirit animal help. Well, there were 9 who cropped up regularly. Whenever I rattled my rattle and drummed my drum. Bear, of course, looking lovable and clownish, but fierce in a fight. Owl sees through darkness. Coyote and rabbit. In folklore, they're both tricksters, but even when they're in deep trouble, they're playful and they're irreverent. Raven, another trickster. Raven stole the sun. And because of that, now, if we keep our eyes open, we don't have to bump into things. And Salmon's tireless. She's all about finding her way home. Whale, swimmer, singer. Badger, again, like bear, kind of cute from a distance, and fierce. And groundhog. Groundhog chose me. He's my muse. Over the years, these 9 keep showing themselves to me. I told Rick, I will for sure call them for help. I will ask them to come with me. I'll take them in my thoughts and in my heart. But what I didn't say was, under anesthesia, I will have no thoughts. I will be flying solo. Under anesthesia, I will be blind. If only I could take some little spirit amulets with me, little charm bracelet or anklet, something touching me, something to touch physically. But you don't even wear a wedding band into the OR. When you go in for surgery, you are empty-handed and butt naked. Butt naked. That gave me an idea. In preparation for this blood sacrifice of my lady parts, I made a ceremony in the tradition of my people who, in the Iron Age, in that part of the world that we now call the British Isles, my people sent prayer up in smoke. They had spirit animals, and I smudged my body, my house. I called on bear, coyote, owl, rabbit, salmon, raven, whale, badger, groundhog. I asked them for help, and I lit a fire to offer up a note of thanks, a prayer I had written to my uterus, my ovaries, my cervix, my fallopian tubes, a prayer in which I thanked them for nurturing me and my children through 2 robust pregnancies, 2 uncomplicated deliveries, 2 simple recoveries. I said, thank you. Thank you for your service. On the morning I was to report for surgery, I brushed my teeth without water. I rinsed my mouth without swallowing, and I looked at Jack's coffee and bagel with unveiled envy. While we walked down the hospital corridor, I wondered if I would mark this day as the official beginning of the end. If there was going to be a long road of treatment and side effects. I blinked hard. I squeezed Jack's hand a little tighter. And then I told myself, oh, please. You got a reprieve 10 years ago. The last decade had been gravy, second dessert, second helpings for you. You are going to die sometime. And if this is the beginning of the end, well, you will handle it with courage and with grace, and you won't have to handle it alone. I knew that 3,000 miles away, my cousin was drumming for me. I was riding in the hearts of my children and my friends, my sister, and walking right beside me, holding my hand, was the love of my life. And 9 powerful spirit animals had my back. Anesthesia's weird. You're here 1 minute, and then seamlessly you're not. And then suddenly, you're back. When I woke up post-surgery, I did some mental spelunking down there to see if I felt empty, bereft. No? Really, not even sore. A little bunchy in my hospital-issued diaper, but not bad at all. I slept and woke again, wondering if I was going to have to get used to being bald. I slept and woke again when Jack came in with a cup of coffee, and he opened the curtains and let the sun in. The corridors hummed with conversation, gurney traffic, footsteps. One set of those footsteps would be my surgeon making her rounds pretty soon, coming in with my prognosis. There was a tap at the door. She poked her head in and she said, well, how are you today? I said, you tell me. How am I? She beamed me a 200-watt smile. She said, it couldn't have gone better. You virtually delivered your organs in the way you delivered your babies. You're going to have 2 tiny little laparoscopic scars. That's it. I found all the evidence I need to tell you I am almost certain you won't have to have any follow-up treatment at all. I'll know for certain in 6 weeks, and it's looking good. You got any questions? I was so overwhelmed with relief, I couldn't talk. All I could do was shake my head. No, no, no questions. She said, well, I've got one for you. What is that strange writing all over your butt? Who did that? Well, Jack did that. The night before surgery, when I came out of my shower, I handed him a list from 1 to 9, and I handed him a brown Sharpie, and I turned around, and he drew my spirit animals on my butt. I said, that's the only way I could bring them into surgery with me. I didn't have time for tattoos. I thanked my surgeon from the bottom of my heart. And with every fiber of my being, I continue to thank bear and owl and coyote and rabbit, raven, salmon, whale, badger, and groundhog. I thank you for hearing my story.